Lately, I haven't been feeling so well. Just like dizzy all the time. My got gut issues, and just aging. I missed a lot of my youth. So and like events in my life that changed the way my friendships developed and social networks and things like that. So lonely. And but because of that, the sort of talents that I was exposed to through family and people who write a lot, travel to different countries and study them, and family friends who were in the CIA, and what else? Just focus on English and in high school and literature. All that is now has been redirected instead of trying to learn the new skill of botany and science. This struggle redirected me to apply these older skills in my life to religious books and so I find things in them. Whether or not I live them, that's the problem, but I try to follow the simple things, and those are the simple things I think are the best to find. Love. That's kind of a constant theme in the Hebrew. That's the name of God. Again, the word God has lost its meaning. We don't know what it means. But I believe that in the Germanic world, it meant like a force. And in Hebrew, the word was El. Someone from Tel Aviv taught me that that El can mean to or towards, like to something. That's how I believe in Arabic. It can also mean like that specific thing, or like it's like you're pointing at it. But then it also forms into all these different words, and Elo, they add the H at the end. It's like the feminine. It's like the name Sarah. So then it's not just like this force or this thing that's moving everything forward. It's coming from a source. It's the source of everything. And just in a few letters, they were able to describe, these big ideas. And these big ideas, I believe, they come from Mesopotamia. They're the ones that they were talking about this in Mesopotamia. It was the reason why the stars moved. Some people worship the stars, that's what they paid attention to, be it the sun or celestial objects like the moon, satellites, natural satellites, and then other people were trying to figure out sort of the reason for it all, and that was sort of the wisdom that prevailed, and that's what was preserved in the Torah. And you can see very similar things happen in Hinduism. They have they have the same thing happen in Hinduism. And so yeah, and then that's in Arabic, they just spelled it differently in order to differentiate from like one or the force, Allah. And it's just the thing that makes everything move. And I definitely have experienced something like that where, maybe I pray or like something happens and it happens at the same time, it synchronizes, like something serendipitous. And it makes you feel like there's some sort of magic in the world, or like it's kind of cool or something like that. Unexplainable. Of course, like psychologists or therapists, psychiatrists, or all of those people, they're more inclined to doubt and find, some explanation for it otherwise. But the point is, yeah, there's definitely something that causes things to happen in our life. And things coalesced and formed into something very complex. And so we know that the forces that, cooperation is the ultimate, whether you call it love or compassion or whatever you want to call it, but it's just like when things cooperate, that's sort of what's bringing everything together. So it's something like that. And but yet sometimes things maybe don't go the way we want them to go, and we don't know why. Sometimes we get the answers as to why, maybe in a dream or some start to see the things around us. Maybe it's like bad karma, something like that. And then we realize, I'm not very satisfied with that. But yeah, it is what it is. And I guess that we just have to try to live. And when the good days are the good, days, we enjoy it and things are great and, oh wow, this is fun. But when they're bad, it's just like, why? And but I think once you start to see those things, it's apparent why things are falling apart. And I think the best thing we could do, and the easiest thing we can do to prevent it from falling apart more, is to seek guidance through prayer and to give to other people, share your resources, donate, especially when people ask. And I think if everyone did it, then we'd have a much fairer society. However, not everyone does it, and so the load gets put on certain people, and they're not the richest people. But it's difficult for people like me to maintain faith because, I'm not unique in the sense of my life story. There's so many of us in the United States that have been through similar things, being sent to a halfway house, being sent to rehab, being put on meds as a kid, making wrong choices. We're not just victims, just drugs and having that affect our health, our decisions, getting into accidents, hurting, ourselves during an accident. And just the food, processed food, spending a lot of time on the computer, just drinking soda and sugary things and not doing exercise and, not having people around with the right social aptitude, because they too, were mistreated somehow. And some of it is very difficult to understand. It might be just generations of sort of people in a scenario thinking they have the best, thinking they're taking the best thing, but they're actually, it's actually hurting them. And so there's an imbalance in the world, and the imbalance in the world is being slowly being balanced. And however, I strongly feel that the religions of today are not the religions, none of them are the true religion. I think what I did and what I thought was special was that I tried looking in the ones that, we inherited, Christianity, Judaism, and then Islam, thanks to, Jewish people who introduced me to those concepts because I didn't know them. I was born Catholic, and Muslim people who did the same. And, but yet, I look at the way that the religions are organized, and there's so many just contradictions, and the books even contradict themselves. All of them contradict themselves. People adamantly say, no, the Quran doesn't contradict itself, but I beg to differ. Because all the Bible and the Torah and the Gospels, teach a very specific message, and it's a message of peace, and the word Islam is peace. Yet, I believe that the Quran was altered at some point throughout its transmission to encourage a holy war. And it's not the only one. The Torah has many parts that talks about war, and the Gospels, primarily the book of Revelation, is where it talks a lot about war, and where people use it to justify war. But if Jesus, for Christians and Muslims, we view Jesus as the Messiah, as an anointed leader. Jesus never went to war with the Romans. He could have, he should have, from our perspective. They were destroying everything. They ended up killing him. So, how is it then that the Christians and the Muslims kill each other so much and have taken over the world? What does that say about our religions? And how much they deviate from the Jewish worldview, threatening people with hell, and believing in Satan as if it's this other deity that we should fear. These are the sort of things that, worshiping Jesus. There's so many different things that that have deviated, and people just, when you're in the religion, religion is just supposed to make people feel comfortable. So they hold on to the wisdom that is the comfort, which is true. It's good. But then no one's really willing to study and like unravel the things. And so I think that's the story of Jesus is so important, because he was someone who did that. From my perspective, it seems like from what the Gospels say, he was someone who acknowledged that the scribes, the people who wrote the books, and the people who are teaching the information, the Pharisees, the religious leaders, they all, have made these mistakes, but yet that the wisdom of it is true. And so he criticized religion, but he never abandoned religion. And I was just watching a documentary about the 7 wonders of Buddhism. In one of the first episodes, or one of the first scenes, they show where there used to be this big tree, and they had built a temple next to it. And so it showed me that there was this transition of, people who worshipped like Buddha, just under a tree. And then someone got the idea to build a temple. And so now we have all these temples everywhere. So things change. And it just seems like at this point, I think the people who have privilege, I feel like have the duty to talk about the things that we are capable of studying, given the time and the skills that we have learned throughout our life, and that we have to take that risk in order to show the world the truth about these things. And the truth is that they are all changed. They're all not exactly what they were, or perhaps what they're supposed to be. However, they all have wisdom, and that wisdom is important and should be preserved. And curiously, or paradoxically, organized religion preserved that wisdom. So organized religion is not entirely bad, and we should respect authority figures just like we would respect someone without authority. And so that's it's not a reason to go and fight with somebody. But it is unfair that people with authority can just yell and scream, and then they're right. And so they're not. It's not. This isn't a debate. Life isn't a debate. That's why there's violence. Is when people lose the debate, they just kill each other. And that's the extreme. But we should know that there are consequences to these things. These things don't just get. They don't just disappear. You only have to look at the United States and see what's happening. But it's stuff that the media doesn't tell you. You just have to observe the way the people live, the way the people are, the health of the people, the mindset of the people, the knowledge of the people, the destruction of the land. What our ancestors did to the Native Americans, it hasn't gone away. It is directly influencing our suffering. And so crimes don't go unpunished. And things get balanced. And so in this life or the next life, And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks for listening. And hope you learn many things, and I hope that you are blessed with a support network of people who encourage you to look for answers in the mysteries of the world, be it religious books or nature or whatever it is, some passion that keeps us alive. Peace.